Hi, and welcome to another video by Get It Done Home Repairs. Today's project is we're going to be repairing some damage to the drywall. As you can see, there was something on the wall here that when taken off, it had an adhesive on the back of it, and when it came off, it tore the paper with it. Now, as you may know or may not know, if you come in here and you try to put the drywall spackle over the top of this, the all-purpose joint compound, you'll put it on there and it'll look good when you first put it on, but then later on you're going to notice it starts to blister and start to peel off. So it's going to look horrible when you go to do the final repair and sand it down. It's just not going to look good. So what we're going to do in this case here is we're going to come in here and we're going to take off all of this loose paper. We're going to cut it off, take it off, scrape it with a scraper or a spackling knife or something, get underneath it, and we're going to take off all the loose parts of it. You may also need a utility knife to come in here and cut any place that did not peel off and you don't want to rip it back further. You can score with a utility knife so that you don't do any further damage to the paper already. Now the product I'm going to use is made by a company called Zinsser, and it's called Guards. You put that product on, you paint it on after you finish cleaning off all this material. Once you paint it on, you let it dry, and then you come in and you do your mud over the top of it, or your drywall spackle over the top, and you can sand it down so it'll look perfect like the rest of the wall. All right, let's get in there, let's get started. First the utility knife, and then our scraper. Okay, so we're gonna come in here first, and we're gonna just take a utility knife, and we're just gonna go to the area where it's starting to peel a little bit right here, and we're gonna come up over here. We're just gonna go like this, and take it off like that, so we can get in here and start to peel it off. Anything that is even the slightest bit loose, you want to take it off. Now, frequently you'll make the hole in the wall a little bit bigger by doing this, but that's okay. We're going to put that sealant over it, and we're going to take care of it. Okay, now before I cut that further back, let me bring you in there and show you what I did. So you just score it just a little bit, just like that, and now we'll get underneath it with the utility knife or with our scraper, and we'll scrape it away. But this is what I was telling you about. You see that paper right there? That stuff has got to come off as well. This is okay, and this, of course, we're going to repair that during our mud job. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to take your utility knife or spackle tool or whatever, and you're just going to dimple it in just a little bit, just like that, because that way the drywall later on will go in there. This we're going to peel back a little further, and these will take off now. All right, so let's continue. Okay, so now we have all of that paper off here. All right, now we'll take this out. Okay, so this is looking pretty good already. Now we're just going to dimple that in just a little bit right there, because we are going to seal it, as I said. Same thing down here. Okay, let me bring it in there. I'll show you what it looks like. And then we're going to get that product that I told you, made by Zinsser, and it's called Guards. We put that on there, let it dry. Once that dries, then we'll come in with the mud, and we'll go over the top of it. All right, so let me bring it in. I'll show you what it looks like now, and we'll continue. Okay, so everything is all cleaned up pretty good. There's no more loose edges around here at all. This is dimpled in a little bit. This is looking good here. Okay, let's get our primer, and we'll continue. So after everything is all scraped down, we did wipe away any of the excess scrapings that may be on there. We know that everything here feels nice and smooth. There's no rough edges. All of the loose pieces now are off. We have our sealer, right here. Now this one here, there's guards. I told you about this one. This is made specifically for this kind of a problem right here. Is there other products you can use? There probably is, but this just happens to be the one that I'm using. Now this is not a paid endorsement, just so you know. This just happens to be the product that I'm using right here for this particular job. All right, so we have our paintbrush and we have our guards. So let's open it up, let's paint it on, and then this takes a couple of hours to dry. I believe it's probably 3 or 4 hours to dry thoroughly. I'm going to let it dry overnight before I come in and put the spackle over the top of it to try to correct this problem right here. All right, so let's open it up, let's paint it on, and let's get to the next step. All right, so let's put it on. I just want to warn you before you put it on, the sealer is very liquidy, so be very careful. When you put it on, it will tend to run down the wall, so use it very sparingly, okay? Okay, so that's it. We're going to let this dry thoroughly. We're going to let it dry overnight. We'll come in tomorrow. We'll put the spackle over it and we'll finish this job off. Now, I will tell you this, that this item, I do like it because this is actually warm water cleanup. There's no mineral spirits or throwing away the tool that you're using. You can clean it up with normal soap and water to use the paintbrush again in the future, and you don't have to throw it away. I will tell you this too, there's lots of other products out there that you can buy. This just happens to be the one that I particularly like to use on a job such as this right here. All right, so let's come back tomorrow, let's put the spackle on, and we'll get this job finished up. Okay, so now after our guards sealer has dried, we touched the wall, we feel everything feels nice and smooth in here. We're going to take some of our spackle, which is a non-shrinking spackle, and we're going to come in here and we're going to smooth this whole section out here so that it's even with the wall. Now, one thing you want to remember is when you're using any kind of spackle on the wall, you want to make it as smooth as possible because that'll minimize the amount of sanding that you need to do in the future. All right, so let's get started on this. Okay, so now after we have the spackle spread onto the wall, we're going to take our larger knife like this and we're going to just smooth it down just like that. So once you're happy now that it's nice and smooth and there's very little bumpiness or lines in the new spackle that you put on there, we're going to let that dry thoroughly. Then we'll come in and we'll wet sand it or sand it with sandpaper just to get any kind of imperfect areas out there. And we'll probably do one more coat just to make sure that it thoroughly fills in. All right, so stick around and we'll wrap this job up and get it done. Okay, so now that our spackle has dried overnight and is thoroughly dry to the touch, there's no more moisture in it, we're going to come in here with a very fine sanding block. This is made for sanding spackle, or you can use just sandpaper too. You can use normal sandpaper. You can use probably a 220 is probably going to be a nice grit sandpaper to use. And then we're going to come in here and we're going to sand it very lightly until it's smooth. If it is a little bit rough and there's a little bit of like a texture to it that you're not happy with, you can come over later on and put a second coat of the spackle over the top of it to make it a perfect job. I would recommend that when you're sanding, have somebody stand there with a vacuum so that you can suck up all of the dust that's going to come off from the sanding, because even though you may think it's going to drop to the floor, it's going to make pretty much of a mess because it's a very, very fine powder that comes off. All right, so let's get in there, let's sand a little bit and see if we're going to be happy with it. It's going to be a little noisy because I'm going to have the vacuum on, so be prepared. Okay, once you're happy with the texture that you have here, this feels really pretty decent to me, so I'm not going to need a second coat on top of it. But if by chance it was a little bit irregular or needed to have an additional coat on it at that time, you can go ahead and do that. You just wipe off the dust that's on there, then you come with your spackle and your spackling knife or your trowel, and you get in there and you smooth it out the best you can. But that's it. That's it. This job is done. We're ready to put some primer on it and put some paint over the top of that. But that's it, this job is done. There's lots of other primers that you can use out there. That just happens to be the one that I used for this particular job. All right, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.